Hello, kiddos. This is Mr. B. Again, this is week 6, and these are the instructions for how to do this week's art. Again, you should do the artwork before you do the music performance work, because the artwork is going to reinforce what the topic is and give you some tools to better reacquaint yourself with the assignment for this week. This week, in week 6, you could need headphones, so I put that and included that in your art. You need to have, in quotes, lift every voice and sing set to Justice's Groove. And that is the song we're borrowing. That's what's called a cover tune. It's not wrong to do that. You just would have to pay the artist if, in fact, you published the song. Now, because we're in education, we get away with that. We wouldn't even have to pay them unless we wanted to, which we would, because that's the right thing to do with fellow musicians. This week, we are covering what's called the perfect fifth. And the perfect fifth is called that because in natural systems, the fifth turns out to be the most dominant of the harmonics. Now, what that means is this. If I were to just happen to have a monochord handy, a single string, if you were to look at the string about halfway, you get the octave. So that, sorry for that, you would get the octave. Halfway on a string, you would get an octave. Half again between the two is what's called the tritone. And that is what we are skipping this week. Last week we did the perfect fourth. This week we're doing the perfect fifth. In between those two things is the tritone. And it's because it's a funky harmonic. The most common harmonic that comes up is at about this point on a string, and it's the fifth harmonic, the perfect fifth. It's a ratio of 3 to 2 mathematically, which is why it's called perfect. Next week we're going to come back to the tritone, because the tritone is supposed to be bad and evil and all that stuff. It's really not. So this week, perfect fifth, again on your art. You should have drawn D2, A2, G2, D2. Here I'm using the iPad nomenclature. Things would be numerically different if we were really talking about scientific pitch notation. You will draw your pitch class space as usual. I put a reference down here. P5 is week 6. Perfect fifth, that's this week. Perfect fourth was last week. And the tritone will be next week, week 7. Essentially, all you're doing this week is taking the work that you did last week, or before the break, in week 5, and adding vocals to it. Now, if you aren't following along, I'm showing you previously how to do the whole thing from start to finish. On the side here, you need to have the interval of a fifth is 7 half steps. It is perfect in that it is the most dominant harmonic in music. And it's in music, and it's in science, and in nature, and it's why it's considered perfect. Now, and by the way, the fundamental, the first, it's not a harmonic, it's a fundamental. That tone is very often dominant in the primary, and that's why we talk about it as the tonic. What comes up next as being the strongest note of vibration is the fifth harmonic. There's other harmonics, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. There's even partials that are in there, but the fifth ends up being the strongest, kind of like on a curve, on a bar graph, So lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring is what you got to get there. So drawing this, I'm going to start from scratch and put my handiwork to it. And so we should have week 6 at the top. And as usual, again, you should have your name here in the middle. So you're going to draw the pitch class space. And I do it this way with you so that if you'd like, you can simply pause and follow along with me. It's not an art show, but it'll work. So here is our D for this week. That's where we're starting. D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, and C sharp. And we're good there. Now, the interval ultimately is 7 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is the perfect fifth. And that's that distance right there. So you should put in here that it's who it's by. So in this case, it's by Jim Bruce. So this is where your name is going to go. And whatever period you're in, you're going to put it there. I'm going to pretend as usual that I'm in period 5. And 69 beats per minute is your target. Okay. Here again, this is the tritone. This is going to be covered in week 7. This here is the perfect fourth. That was week 5. That was before break. This is this week. This is P5 and this is week 6. And we're going to come back to this next week. All you're really doing is this week's work is essentially this week plus vocals. That's all you're doing. It's a lot, but you can certainly work up to it. Now, up here you're going to have lift every voice and sing. And then that shouldn't be a period there. It should be set to Justice's groove. There's the period, and that should be an apostrophe there because it's possessive. It is owned by the justice. It is his groove. Next, you're going to write your D2. So this gives you a reference to help you find things a little bit. G2 and D2. That's the first pattern you're playing. That's the piano pattern. Ultimately, you're playing the first piano part. Here is our D2. This interval right here, that distance is equal to P5, or also called the perfect fifth. Okay, so P5 is the perfect fifth. The other things that you need to add to your drawing for this week are the formal lyrics that you're singing, which again, go down here, and it is lift every voice and sing. And then it's till. It's an abbreviation, not until. You're taking out the UN, you're putting in an apostrophe, because when you sing it, you're saying till earth and heaven ring. Till earth and heaven ring. That's the lyric you're singing. It is exclamatory in my opinion. And then the last thing that you're going to make sure that you write is that your understanding of this week's topic, to show comprehension of the content, which is that the interval of a fifth is 7 half steps. 7 half steps. It is perfect in that it is the most dominant harmonic in music. And it's just because it comes up in natural systems very, very often. And orchestrally, most stringed instruments, other than the bass in orchestras, are tuned to perfect fifths. And the guitar and the piano are not perfect. They are what are called equal temperament. So usually orchestras come from that tuning first, and then they use their ears to kind of work into the correct thing. So remember that piano and guitar are approximations of reality, and we usually have to kind of bend into them. So that's why some aspects of theory are a little bit more complicated, because it's a little obtuse. Anyway, there we are. That is the artwork for week 6 and its completion and then demonstrated. Look forward to seeing y'all in class.